I think event managers need to look at the holistic approach to an event. What you often see is that there's a lot of budget that's spent on theming and entertainment, on guest transport, when really the major part of an event is about the food and the beverage. People need to set realistic budgets and realistic expectations. I think a very important thing with creating a successful event is being able to communicate the client's needs, wants, expectations to all of those people involved. So that's the caterers, the themers, the people who organise the entertainment, right across the board. A successful event, basically at the end of the day, is having a client whose expectations are met within a realistic budget. Budget's a very important thing. You need to communicate that to people and have an understanding of what is realistic and what isn't realistic.
What makes a successful event, I would think, maybe the client's perception that everything was seamless, everything was as discussed, it was well planned and organised, and yeah, things just fell into place without any dramas, and I think a lot of that is just good planning, so that makes a successful event. I think the client being 100% happy with that outcome.
There are two key things that make a successful event. I think the organisation and the character of your event. If you have an event that is organised, well-paced, well thought out, with the appropriate procedures and the appropriate staff handling the event, you're going to have a very successful event. Also, you need an event that has character. Character in every little detail, from the table settings, the room, and right down to the staff themselves. They need to create the character for your event, to create the feel that you want your guests to experience, so that they feel at home, they feel relaxed, and that they enjoy their night.
I guess an all-round performance from kitchen team, a floor team, great response to the client, fulfilling their needs and exceeding their needs wherever possible.
They should know the budget, and they should know the expectations of the client. They should be aware of when a budget is realistic and when a budget is not. Something that happens too often is that people try to produce an event at an unrealistic cost. So it's communicated to a client that yes, this can happen, but the reality is the budget isn't there to do it. And it's not necessarily all about budget. The skills and the experience aren't there to do it as well. So there's a certain level that must be maintained. And I think this translates right across the board, is that people are attempting to give a product for less than it should be able to be produced at. Because as soon as you start cutting budgets, people start cutting corners, and then ultimately with everybody adding their pieces on along the line, the client's getting a product that's less than what their expectations were. What else do event managers need to know? Communication. Communication's essential across every line. The reason you're an event manager is you have a team around you who are professionals in each of their areas. Something event managers need to do is they need to trust their suppliers. And you get a lot of event managers who try and micromanage events. What you need to do is, if you have a caterer who is a good caterer, you need to let them do what they do.
I think planning the practicalities would be the first one. I think event managers, sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the gloss of things and not think about perhaps rubbish bins and water and those kind of things that are practical. So you have to kind of you need a finishing off person as well as a creative person, someone to think of all the details. I think they need to be able to see the big picture. I think they need to seek out the best people that they can rely on to take care of various things so they can delegate. A presence on the night to oversee things and to give the client the perspective that everything is seamless and comfortable.
Event managers need to know procedures and organisation. They need to know how to handle their staff. They need to know how to handle their service procedures well, and they need to know how to handle their guests.
How to coordinate a team, how to structure service. They need to know in advance, of course, the requirements of the client and fulfil those as close as possible. 5 things. Goodness me, a great coordination between the kitchen and service team. That's always necessary. Good lines of communication, as always, between back of house and front of house.
I think event managers need to spend a little bit more time with the stakeholders. I think very often you find a lot of event companies, they'll send you a brief that's all of 2 paragraphs, and that sometimes is the limit of their communication about it. It becomes a numbers game where it's about turning over as many events as you can. Whereas I think they shouldn't be afraid to have the contact deal directly with the caterer, because particularly when you're talking about the food and beverage service side of things, some of it will get lost in translation. Remember, the more detailed a brief you can give, the better the translation of what's wanted is going to be. Running a successful event, I think event managers also need to make sure that they're using suppliers who have experience, and particularly suppliers who have experience in that field of event that they're doing. Something that's very useful is there's a body called the International Society of Special Events, International Special Events Society. And to be a member of that, you have to be an accredited industry professional. So people get nominated by other industry people to be involved in that. You see more and more that there's more event companies popping up every day. There's more caterers, there's more theming companies. Just remember, everything looks good on paper, and you don't know what you can have until you've had it.
Staff are key to your successful events. If you have the right team of staff, you're going to have a successful event. Staff that have the right attitude and the right training. If you have staff that don't want to be there and who don't like the people they're working with, they're not going to convey that through to your event and will pass on to the guests. You really need to have a good team of staff.